of death. Eventually we'll go live. There we are. We're going live. Awesome. Right.
We're going to
hello
have
everyone.
the 30-second intro. The ding, 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 ding.
No, John. We're professional now. We're professional people. Hello everyone. For those unfamiliar with Jonathan, we host. Can we say we host? Yeah, I think we host a podcast called the PKM Podcast every Saturday. So if you're not familiar with John, that's John to my right. Yes, that side. And the plan today, as you've seen on the thumbnail and in the title, is to show you around John's Obsidian vault. Now, I will preface this and say we will probably divert in lots of different directions. And if you do want to add a question, I've put a pinned comment in the chat as well. So if you have a question, put it in chat and put Q and then colon so I can actually start. So I don't have to spend too much time scrolling around chats and stuff. But yeah, John, do you want to do a quick intro about who you are, what you do, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I am John. I host the podcast with him, who's on that side, and I pointed the right way. I am a simplicity specialist, and I use Obsidian to, at the moment, run my business. It's just me right now, but there is a plan to bring other people in my team into Obsidian really soon. And I'm very excited for it. So I primarily use Obsidian, which is probably the bit which everyone's interested in, to just manage the day-to-day of my business so that I don't have to think of all the things that I've got to do, because I'm running across multiple different things, working with multiple different people. I've got 2 children. I've got a lot to think about all the time. And so for me, my Obsidian is basically organized chaos.
I like
which is pretty much me.
Yeah, I like it. So just as a quick rundown, just so everyone gets an idea of how long you've been using Obsidian, when did you start using it, if you can remember? And do you want to cover your journey a little bit into Obsidian? Those listen to the podcast, we've discussed this at length, but this is the YouTube channel, so some people may not know.
Yeah, so I started in Obsidian, I don't really know how long ago now. I started playing with it as you were really getting set up. So whereas previously I was in Notion and love Notion, still kind of like Notion, but Obsidian's just better. For me.
For
me. And so I started off, I did what everybody does and just went in there. I started playing an awful lot with it. I originally used it primarily for like project, like PKM stuff. So keeping track of different articles that I had and etc. And that was fine, but I always found myself coming back to Notion for task and project management. Then me and Danny had a couple of conversations and he was showing me what he was doing. I'm like, oh wow, yeah, this is really simple. Let me go and play. I think the thing that got me in was the tasks plugin. When I saw the task plugin and Dataview and what you were doing, I was like, wait, I can do that. Okay, and I think another one is DB folder. Like DB folder is like, oh, that's another Notion. That's a Notion like, because I just loved seeing it like that. And from then I kind of dove headfirst into using it, and now I use it for keeping track, for making notes. But I primarily use it just for day-to-day stuff. I don't do as much kind of like PKMing in the traditional sense of PKM, not to get too deep into the philosophical discussions about that here. That's for the podcast. But yeah, I use it primarily just to keep track of things I need to get done and projects that I'm working on for my business or for clients or that kind of thing.
Right. So are you good to jump straight in, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome. Right.
Okay, let me make a bit bigger so that people can see. There we go. How is that? I can't see you now, so I'm just moving over here.
You could zoom in, because obviously you're on Obsidian, so you could zoom in on either zoom in on the page as in like text size, or zoom in on Obsidian. Yeah, I think that's good. It's good for me, so we'll wait for chat. Obviously.
Okay, so for those familiar with Danny's setup, it is very similar, because it's basically Danny's setup, which I've then tweaked to fit me, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
A quick pause on that one. My setup previously, I have quite drastically changed my daily notes. So
you set up previously because it works for me, and some of these I've tweaked literally today as I was talking to Danny about it, because I was like, oh, I want to change all these things. So basically everything starts in my daily note. Every single day it creates itself automatically. Whenever I open Obsidian, it comes into my daily note, and then I have my daily log up here where I basically capture all my tasks. I sometimes use quick add, but primarily I just chuck stuff in because it's quicker, whether it be from my phone or whether it be from my MacBook or from my Mac, which is where I'm at the moment. This is the task plugin. I'm literally it's just tasks, default tasks, which is lovely. And then I have a scheduled date when I'm supposed to be doing them or when I'm working on them. And I sometimes use due dates.
do you want to explain what the scheduled date is then?
Yeah, so the scheduled date for me primarily is when I'm thinking of doing it. Or either it kind of, I'm still like figuring my way around it, whether it's when I think I'm going to do it or when I've just added the task in. If I don't know, I'll just put in the day. And then I have task due dates, which you can actually see with down here on this one, which is when a task needs to be done, which I sort. So try not to skip ahead. This is a Dataview query inside of a delicious block, which basically pulls in all tasks that are due by a certain date, and some of them are really out of date because updates.
Is that a Dataview query or a task query? It looks like a task query.
It is a task query. This one is a task query. See, you know, I don't.
I was going to say, there's the edit button for the tasks.
Yeah, so I have a task query where I can just edit things really quickly. What I think the thing that I really love about this is how it interacts with projects that I have. So you can see here, I've got update work with me pages, and I'm linking to 2 separate projects. This one being a bigger project, like kind of almost like an area, so to speak, but I just call it a project because it doesn't matter, which has basically 1 task in every month, and I tick it off. It has like a monthly review, where I review all of my businessy stuff. And then I have this one here, which is something that I just created today because I needed to jot it down quickly. And it pulls in that information really easily without me having to think about it. And I can find my way back and forth between the different pages and the different logs and all that stuff really super easily. Yeah, it's really boring.
You make it sound really boring. That's a lot of stuff. I mean, how were you doing it in Notion beforehand? I know you had task databases and project databases.
Yeah, so I had a project date. I had actually 3 layers. So I had like tasks. I then had or actions. I called it actions. Then I had projects. Then I had people or clients, and then I had like areas of the business. And so it was much more granular previously inside of Notion, for obvious reasons, because it needs to have a lot more structure in it, or at least it needed to when I was using it for myself. I wanted a lot more structure to put the databases in the right places for me and all that lovely stuff. Whereas with and what kind of, I suppose it'd be interesting to talk about why I moved. It was, I wasn't putting tasks in my Notion. I was going back to storing them in my head, which is not a good thing. And the reason why was because of the barrier to just add a task. It was just too much, and I just couldn't be bothered anymore. Like spending all that time. I had less and less time. I had less and less energy, and I just wanted to get in and just be able to capture things super fast, which is what I really, really love about Obsidian. It is effortless just to capture an idea or a task, and often I use it for not just tasks, but also just for jotting random stuff down that I have. Like, what was it? Where was it? Yeah, there's a ton of just, some days I write very little, and then other days I write a ton of stuff and, create projects inside of here. and it's super easy and quick for me to use. This is where, like, I was reading the can't remember the
Becoming a sports coach.
And I was making notes based on that directly in here because I could. And then what I'll do is when I want to process it and move it somewhere, I will, but I don't have to. And I've got these ideas and all of this stuff, lovely, fun stuff. And then I have all of my actions that I need to do, which show kind of within the 7 days and before, ordered by priority and done and due, due and scheduled.
Can you just show the query so people can see it? Because on the replay, people may ask.
There you go.
And for reference, I'm assuming you're using the templater script to get the dates in?
Yes, I am. Crazy how you know that. Yeah, so my templates are basically Danny's. Or Danny's
my old ones. My new templates are rather scary looking.
And so it's pretty simple. Well, I say simple. It's not really simple, but we'll just call it simple because it's easy. And yeah, that's what it is. It's that. So tracking not done. You can see Danny's video. You don't need to hear me.
So instead of you risking making a mistake, you're like, just go watch Danny's video on it.
Yeah, quite frankly, like, and that's where I am at with Obsidian. I'm not interested in. I need it for what I need it for. That's kind of what I'm more interested in.
So, have you edited any of the queries that much? Because from what I know, using Notion, for example, when you get a template in Notion, if it doesn't work exactly how you want it to work, you need to know how databases work, how relations work, so you don't break anything or mess anything up. So what's your experience with, I guess, editing an Obsidian setup?
Really easy. Like I've made, so here's a good one actually. My project, which we hadn't even gone on to, my project long form and other projects like data queries. I recently started using DB folder, which meant I could have checkboxes because sometimes I have ideas for content that I actually, as I keep going, don't really want to do it, but they're not really like completed. And so I just tick it off as done to kind of archive it versus getting rid of it. And that's kind of what I did. And it took me this long to like, that's all I had to do. And that is something that I quite enjoy. I know enough about code to know what the exclamation mark before the thing is not. And then done, not done. It's sorted and it's super easy to use. And that is what I think I really appreciate is it's actually not that hard. And you can get super complicated if you want to, but I can't be bothered anymore.
Just for reference that are unfamiliar with Dataview, because Dataview is one of those plugins that, I mean, even for me, when I was, I'd been using Obsidian probably about 8-9 months before I even touched Dataview, because it just scared me. I was like, no, that's code. I have to actually learn stuff. How did you get into Dataview? Was it a video? Was it just me showing you how to do stuff? Like,
it was literally you showing me how to do it. And I actually find it really easy to understand. These are, I don't know whether you agree, pretty basic, apart from maybe the flatten bit, which is just...
I was going to say that the flatten bit's a bit complicated.
But it's fairly simple. It's like create a table without the ID, file link as others, the capital, the deadline, and showing the deadline from the project and not from the template folder and not from the content video or content blog or content paid, tags, and then sort it by deadline ascending. That bit I don't know and I don't really need to know. You can explain it if you want.
People can look at the Dataview docs because they're lovely. Essentially that's just combining things together and mapping it so that everything is one.
That was my understanding. And and then it's where it's not.
It's interesting that you have it formatted like that, though, because most of the time when you see the docs, you've got the view type, so the table, list, task, whatever, and then you have your source, so the from, and then the source location, whether it be a folder or a tag or file. then you'll have your where clauses, and then you'll have your sorts or limits or whatever else. You've just got this big sort of lump dumped in.
I have also been tweaking this like on my phone, so the formatting's a little bit more balked than normal, because I was doing it on my phone.
Right. Okay. So you've got deadline showing. Is that the date?
Yeah. So inside of here, I've got a deadline here. It's a property, inline property. And so what I think what I really love is, what is it? Natural dates? Is that what the plugin is?
Yeah, natural language dates.
I just love doing that. It's just I don't exactly know how to explain what I just did, because it's that simple. It's just like,
So what you've done is you've used a trigger symbol, which in your case is @ because that's the settings you have, and then you've used natural language dates. So natural language, as in 3 days, in 3 months. It's recognizing what it is you're putting. It's calculating what that is from now, and then inputting the result as the output. So that's a whole year in a. Oh no, we're coming towards the end of 22. Yeah, God, wow.
Yeah, it's in 3 months' time, and this is Danny's, but to be fair, even I could do this one, believe it or not.
Don't sell yourself short.
And I think actually what I really like is everything that I'm learning with Obsidian is usable elsewhere because it's some form of JavaScript, and that is what I think I enjoy. Whereas with Notion, the formulas in Notion are they're Notion based. Yes, I think it's based in a similar language, but it is very limited. So I just have it simply there, and I don't have to. Whereas with Notion, I had to think about everything. I can just chuck stuff in, and chances are the way that I've done it is not very clean or proper, but it doesn't have to be.
That right there is why I like Obsidian. Like, it doesn't matter where you put it, when you put it there, or how you label database locate. It'll appear. If you search for it, it'll appear.
Yeah, and I love that. It gets out of my way and allows me to work, and I can put a task anywhere I bloody well like. And that is what I really enjoy, is I don't have to really. With Notion, I had to think a lot. Whereas in Obsidian, I'm never thinking, oh, where do I put this? Oh, do I want it to be a project, or do I have had moments where I've been like, oh, yes, I need to, this is a good example. Like this here was today, like update Zotero template to mimic the updated Kindle integration, because I now have a plugin that's direct with Kindle, and I wanted my Zotero template to mimic the Kindle one. And I've just done that, and it's done, and it's there. It's so easy to do anything. And if I have an idea for a piece of content, like talk about how I use Obsidian, and I can just tag it with content, and then I don't have to think about it. Like it's just there, and there's no like, oh, where do I put it? Do I put it here? Do I put it there? And then when I want to sort it and organize it, I can, but it's not a requirement for me to get things for me to do what I want.
I was confused at the question that's been put in chat. What's your opinion on onions? I don't know whether that's a serious question or not, but I mean, good food.
My opinion on onions is they're nice fried.
Yes. And I know Adovos, I think I've said that correctly, is a big Dataview user helper inside of the thread. So yeah, I'm going to leave that one up there. Actually, not that one, that one.
That'll be better. It's better to have the where directly after the from more, and it does more work than it needs to do. Okay, cool. I will I will go move things around later. Thank you.
Well, you've got it in the right order. It's just there's no line breaks. So when I was reading it, because I saw the where at the end of the line, and I'm used to seeing it right at the beginning, and it was a bit odd. That's a task query. That's the data view. Yeah, you can tell it's a task because you've got the edit button.
I know. I'm just like I love the fact that I don't have to think. I just find it so refreshing. I think it was on separate lines when I originally had this. It was only this morning that I didn't have it on separate lines when I moved it inside of the block because there was some weird
question for you then.
Yes.
Your workspace, obviously you're split at the moment, horizontal. You've got your, I assume, your daily note at the top. And then at the bottom, you've got 2 tabs. Loving the tab update, by the way. What are they for? Are they always there? Or?
The main 2 are there. I think I've hidden a couple of them just because client information. But yeah, these 2 are the main ones that I really use. Sometimes I open my task, but I also have, unless it's closed because I've closed it. I did have my task one in the sidebar over here, which I thought was like amazing. I haven't updated my workspace layout, so because I don't need to, because I haven't really thought about it. But I often have my task tab open here, like so.
What is that, like a page, or is that a plugin tab?
Yeah, so I have my task dashboard option over here, so I can just see what tasks are a week or older, and then I can make sure I remember a few things that I forget. But outside of that, spoilers. That's literally probably the only one I have there, and even that is optional, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I like the idea of having a side tab. I must admit, my new setup doesn't use any of the side panels. So, okay. I was reading the onion thing. Yeah, so my setup's actually stopped using the sidebar. So I'm curious, do you use the left one? Because obviously you're just showing the main one. Is that your normal working view, your workspace, just the two pages up and down?
Yeah, I don't really use the sidebar unless I have to. But often I don't really have it open. If I need to find something, I'll just open.
Yeah, and quick switch. So I notice you're not using any other quick switcher plugin because there's a few. Is that by choice, or you don't need it?
I just haven't really used it. There's no real reason. I'm happy to be a bit. Yeah, I just haven't used it.
Fair. So with your project management then, I saw your projects DB folder. I don't know whether you're going to go into that or not. But how? Oh, yeah, you are. Never mind. I was going to say, but how are you managing your projects inside of Obsidian? Because project management isn't typically a thing you think you would do in Obsidian, because Obsidian's a notes app.
How do I do it? Exactly how I do tasks. I know that's so great, but it is exactly the same way. So I have this here, which is obviously DB folder, and I'm playing with tabs. I'm not sure whether this is too much, and I don't really need it at the moment. I'm having one like DB folder for all of my projects style. So to create a project, it's quite literally just has to have the tag, the project tag, and then I have a number of different types of projects. So this is like a blog, or a blog post that's a piece of content, or I have a video if I'm ever going to do a video, which I never do, or it's a business one, it's a business project. And it's how I turn things. Everything starts as a task on my homepage. So everything starts here. And if I want to turn it into a project, so this would be a good example. Talk about how I use Obsidian. This could be a project. So I just do that. Open it up, insert the project, set a deadline. If it's for a client, I put people. If it's for me, I leave it blank. And then off we go.
Nice.
And it's just, like I said, on my tweet, it's going to be really boring because it's really simple. Because that's the point. I want it to be really easy for me to not have to think about it.
Can you show your project template?
No. I was about to use the quick switcher, but I can't because I've taken that out. The project template is super dumb.
What do you mean you've taken it out?
It doesn't come up straight away. I have to search more.
It's in the excluded files.
Yeah.
Right.
So the project template is very similar to everything else. I have it as a standard, just tag, project, deadline. I put the deadline in afterwards. Days left is just this little bit of code. And then the progress is basically what Danny did. And I just took it.
Fair enough. And with your, I assume you can use templates inside of DB folder. Is it just your preference to make the project inside of the daily note?
It depends on what's happening. Like whenever I decide I want to create a project, most of the time I'm here. So I will just create it in here. If I have ideas, I look at my list and go, oh, that's kind of a cool idea. But yeah, I am aware I look at this for viewing and just to keep track of deadlines and stuff more than anything else, more than creating projects inside of here. Often it is just, I'm in my task list. I see something that I want to turn into a project. I turn it into a project.
Right. And I assume the the tags inside of the project template aren't tags deliberately so you can type in the box as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Because you're going to type in there something, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, nice. We've got a question from Kim in the chat.
What's different between project actions and related actions for you? So it's purely a user thing. Project actions are all on this page. Related actions are literally just pulling in from anywhere else. And so it pulls in related actions from any other page that I'm working on. So let's say, for example, I'm doing some research for something. So a good example of this actually would be the Maslow one. If, say, for example, I had some ideas from some research that I was reading, and this is all hypothetical because I don't actually do this yet. I could actually have a question or a task that I actually put in there saying, oh, I'm thinking about this for this project. And what it does is it looks for, it looks for the outlinks to this page. And so when I assign a task to a project that is off the actual page itself, it comes into related actions.
Nice. Have you thought about using Quick Add to just add a task to the project, or do you just prefer dumping it all in the daily note and just putting the mentions in?
It does vary, to be quite honest. Like when I'm doing a project, so one of the projects that I'm doing right now is this one, and I basically did I just went to the page and just put it in. Like I did it manually myself and put it all in from my phone, which I know that doesn't sound very exciting, but for Notion users, it's very thrilling. It is beyond exciting that I can do it from my phone.
That's true.
It just makes me happy. It really does. Simple things that makes me happy. And I think that is, I just like it. It's just simple.
So can you go into your settings? I want to have a look at your community plugins because I'm sure other people will ask, like, what community plugins are you using? What core plugins are you using? That sort of thing.
So I start with better footnote because I hate footnotes in it the way that it's styled. That's probably not a really good. I will show an example of that in a minute. Better word count. I use that on occasions when I'm writing something and I need to know like limits. It's kind of primarily for social media posts when I want to see limits. I think better word
count. Has it been fixed?
No idea.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was broken with the new version 1 update.
It seems to be working fine.
Ah, so, okay. I may have to install it again.
Yeah. Completer. I have that because it completes stuff for me, so I don't have to think about it, especially when I'm inside of a project and I want to use the same YAML as I do with DB folder. It tells me what that is. It's helpful.
What's YAML?
Properties.
That's how I would explain it.
It's basically properties, hidden properties that you don't have to see unless you want to see them. You have hidden properties and then inline properties. YAML's the hidden properties in my head. Dataview is how I have the beautiful tables and basically everything.
No, you're using tasks as well. So.
Oh yeah, true. And then DB folder is how I have like the Notion style fold tables. Kindle highlights.
It's database folder, not DB folder when you're searching for
DB
it. Just
folder.
reference.
Yeah, it's data. Yeah, it's called database folder. Please rename it.
Raphael, if he's listening.
Just please rename it. Then you have Kindle highlights, because I do a lot of reading on my Kindle, and unfortunately I have not figured out a really nice way of integrating Kindle with Zotero automatically. I used to use Readwise. I now use Zotero for basically everything but my Kindle, because I don't need to use Readwise anymore, because I have my Kindle highlights, which automatically sync my highlights every time I open the app, and I can trigger it to sync my Kindle highlights. And it's good, and I like it. So I use it.
And it's free.
And it's free, and allows you to pay a penny, which is lovely. Natural language dates, you saw me using earlier. I have Quick Add. I sometimes use it, but not very often. I sometimes use it to create a project when I'm like, oh yes, this is a thing.
So we were discussing whether you were going to use buttons or not. And I think if potentially use buttons, that would be where the Quick Add is used.
Yeah, I'm still deciding on buttons. If I was to try and create a more of a visual appeal, which I'm slowly doing, now I've got the dirty version of my space. I'm now starting to add in the more visual flair, because I do appreciate a good looking space. And so I'm starting to add a little bit of visual, like breaking things up with the call out blocks and a number of other things that I'm planning to do. And I think I may bring in buttons after a while. And I think Quick Add is fantastic anyway. I do like Quick Add.
While we're talking about the visuals, I think the video that went out last, or maybe the one before that, was about supercharged links and style settings. I don't know whether I know you've seen it in my space.
Yeah, I hadn't done that yet.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you tried it and didn't like it, or
no, that's something that I haven't tried.
Yeah, because something that for those, so I left a comment, actually, Mage is still in they were in the chat earlier. I left a comment on one of Mage's comments, and what I've done is with the supercharged links is what it does is it looks at either the path or the tag or an attribute of a page, and then adds essentially a look to the file name. Now, for all of my video projects, if a page is tagged with hashtag content, it puts a film thing on it and then makes it a red file name. And what I've done is, because I use DB folder, when I tick my project done, it's an attribute in the page. So I have a supercharged link that looks for the attribute in the page done. So now any video project that's done has a tick at the end. So nice. I can see just by looking at the page that that's a video project that's been done, irrespective of where it's linked, because of the CSS, which obviously is helpful.
That is something that I'm going to be looking at, because I remember, I think you showed me it last week, and I'm like, yes, I love that. That is something that's going into my space, as I've just literally put down. And for people who are watching my screen, that is literally how I do everything in Obsidian. Is just go to my home, because it's a shortcut, and just type it down, and then carry on with what I'm doing. I just love it, because often, like, even when it comes to just when I'm with clients or I'm in a meeting with someone, like, I have these ideas that are like, I have lots of ideas and I always forget them if I don't speak them out loud. So to try and avoid being rude, I actually just write it down. And then, of course, because I have these ideas, they're now ideas for pieces of content, which means I can turn them into a piece of content, which is a project, which means I can go and do that. And it's just, it's completely and utterly stupid simple.
I thought you were going to say something smart then.
You know, it's effortless. I don't have to think, which I think is why I love what I love about it. Like, now I'm starting to think about things like buttons and other styly things, which I just want it to look pretty. But I could use it, and I have been using it as is without much change. But yeah, going back to this Tag Wrangler, because oh my gosh, thank goodness for Tag Wrangler. my space was a mess. Cheers, Annie. We just went through it, just dealt with all the tags. Tag Wrangler is a miracle.
I will add on here though, my vast knowledge of plugins, because I'm sad and I've gone through like 400 of them at this point. Meta Edit is quite a good plugin for managing YAML and front matter, and it also manages tags quite well. It doesn't quite have the renaming thing, but DB Folder, because of the way that you can configure the settings, you can actually rename tags because it's a property. And I still need to test this out fully, but I'm pretty sure you could rename specific tags if it's in the DB folder. And if you've just got the database file inside of your main vault, it will pick up all of your files. So again, I still need to test this. So caveat here, but I might be removing Tag Wrangler because I can just edit all my tags inside of DB folder.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Tasks is fairly integral to what I do, and really love tasks. I think that was what, once task was brought in, I was like, right, I'm done. I'm in. Because I love the recurring feature. I love the functionality when I add a task and it adds all the little things of high, low, and medium and all of that. Like, it just feels nice to use, and I don't really have to worry too much. I can use as much of it as I want, or as little of it as I want, and it's easier to edit things. And whereas Dataview is fine, but it's annoying. Whereas tasks, I can see all the number of tasks that I have and all that lovely. I just like it. It's nice. Templater is just it's just naughty. It's just naughty. Like,
naughty.
Templater is naughty, and I know I haven't even scratched the surface of Templater. How good Templater really is. I've seen some pretty cool stuff, and I love it too. So there we go. And then Zotero, because I use Zotero and I can import all of my stuff really darn quickly, and I do all my highlighting in Zotero. I love Zotero.
Well, you didn't. You didn't to start with, because you thought it was all research papers.
Yeah. It's not there.
I'm just going to like...
Yeah, core plugins. I basically have a number of them on. Don't even know whether I use half of them. Daily notes.
I think that's most people.
I just have stuff. I don't even need GraphView. I don't know why I have it on. Do you know what? I might turn it off while I'm here, because I don't use GraphView. You know.
I was going to say that's one of the reasons that moved me over to Obsidian, because like I was testing out Rome and the Rome graph with a smiley face, and it just wasn't great. And then the Obsidian graph view was just like, yeah, that's great, and now I just don't use it ever.
Yeah, I don't use it. I like slash commands because it's Notion-like. I use it so I don't have to remember some of the code. I use it for call-out blocks primarily, because then it just automatically creates that for me, and I don't have to think about that.
You haven't got a hotkey for it?
Huh?
You haven't made a hotkey for it yet?
I haven't, because I have too many hotkeys now.
You can never have too many hotkeys.
I really like slides. I haven't tried it out yet, but I do like the idea of slides. And obviously I use daily notes. Sorobe
this one
has made it like I don't use daily notes. I don't use daily notes in the way that everyone uses daily notes, or like the traditional way that people use daily notes for like journaling and all of this nonsense that I don't care. It is primarily a place to dump all my stuff for the day, and that's literally all I use it for. I don't have special questions I ask myself.
Journal prompts, I think they're called.
I don't. Yeah, those things. I don't have journal prompts. I don't use it as a journal. It is a I'm gonna put shit here page.
A DOTD, a dump of the day.
Yes. A dump of the day page. That's the only reason why I have daily notes. Otherwise I wouldn't use it either. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Now,
you don't
this is an interesting one.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't know if you're the same, but when I count PKM, personal knowledge management, I count capturing sources as part of PKM, and I need somewhere to put it. Like, yes, I could just make
Yeah.
a file, but I want it to be linked to the day most of the time. Yes, I have the created time or the created date of the file, which is fine. But when I go backwards in time through my days, I like to be able to see what content I created, or more often than not, when I'm like, oh yeah, I watched that video or I listened to that podcast, when was it? And I just go back a couple of days. I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. Rather than having to search through either my notes inbox query, database query thing, or having to try and remember the name of it because I use site keys as names of files because zotero.
As do I, because I can't be asked to do anything else.
It's just easier because everything's consistent. And something that I realized as well today, just as like a side tangent here, I watched a video on YouTube and I couldn't remember whether I'd watched it before. Like, I know I've watched, so it was a London Reels video with Seth Godin, and I've heard Seth Godin speak loads, and I couldn't remember whether I'd watched the video before. So I captured the video to Zotero, which is what I always do. And then when I went to the duplicate items section and it wasn't there. So I know I hadn't watched the video, or at least I hadn't taken notes on that video before, which means I don't duplicate my video notes, which when you start using Zotero and Obsidian, it doesn't really make sense. But now I've been using it for over a year. There are sometimes I watch a video, I'm like, have I seen this before? I'll clip it to my Zotero. I'll then go to the duplicate items and it says, you've already got this. So I then know exactly where it is inside of my Obsidian rather than making the same note twice.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. For PKM, that's what I do. I just put it in that, and even sometimes I don't do that because I'm not doing enough of like not doing enough. I'm not currently focused on like that personal knowledge management part of it. From like,
you said you take meeting notes though.
Yes, I do meeting notes in there. I'm updating my meeting note template, but yeah.
Okay. I was just thinking because in my head, meeting notes are PKM because it's knowledge management for you.
Oh, I do meeting notes. So yes, in terms of PKMing, that's PKM. Yes, I do meeting notes in there. So,
do you have an example meeting note you could share, or?
I don't know. Can you pull me off?
Yeah, I'll take you off screen for a second. And what I'll actually do is I'll share my screen. So, just as reference for those templater users, this is what I've been using, or I've been testing out. This is what I've been testing out with Templater, with help from people inside of the Dataview and Templater threads. There are lots of names in there. But yeah, so this basically this creates a monthly note, which is using periodic notes rather than daily notes. Periodic notes is a community plugin. Daily notes is a core plugin. I'm then using Templater to insert the month. And then I've got this script, basically, which is creating a weekly note for each week of the month. So it looks as to whether there is a day in that week that's included in the month and goes, yes, input that weekly note, which is also in periodic notes, then do the next one, etc., until it gets to a point where there's no day in this week where it's in the month, so it doesn't create it. So if there's 4 weeks, it adds those 4 weeks to the monthly note. If there's 5, it adds 5, 6 adds 6, etc. And that does it automatically with the template. So this is the sort of really advanced, no one really needs to use this sort of features you could do with Templater. This is probably one of the most advanced templates I have in my space because it uses a lot of, you can see like random codey stuff. But like I say, this was built.
But also, like, maybe it's because I know Moment, which is the Java that you're using, Moment.js. It's not actually as complicated as it looks once you look up Moment.js. And you can get all this information really easily, so to speak.
It's easy to access, but it's complicated to create. It requires a programmer's mind to be able to create something like this because we were troubleshooting it for a few hours. This wasn't that's how you do it. Yeah, right. Let's head back to us. I don't do daily because I use a notebook through the day. and then dump it in Obsidian. That makes total sense. My sister's the same. She prefers writing stuff, handwritten, so just do that. Yeah, totally makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Meeting notes. I completely forgot because I was listening to you.
I was talking so you could do something, in the background. Right, Kim's got a question, and I will answer that while you search for a meeting note that isn't meant to be censored. So, wouldn't it make sense to watch the video again if you can't remember that you watched it? Yes, I do watch it again. It's so I don't make a duplicate note. So I'll watch it again, and then I'll either add the notes to the note in my Obsidian or change the notes in some way. Most of the time I add notes because I don't like removing notes that I've taken. I prefer to add two things. And maybe you would make different notes second time round. Yeah, so I will make notes the second time round, but the notes are on the same page rather than having two different files for the same video, essentially. Hopefully that makes sense. I do the same thing, way easier. I just convert the daily notes into a week count. Nice. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Same way with the monthly note. I found that I don't actually need it with the weekly note because the weekly note is obviously days. So I can just input the day, like look at the week as the file title in moment, and then just say, hey, this is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Whereas in months, because if you've got like the first of the month is on the Saturday, you need the week for that one. And it's months are just a pain. Quarters are much easier, and years are much easier. Like years are simple, but yeah, the month was just a pain. Are you good to share?
Yeah.
Right. Adding to screen.
This is a really easy note, and I have a very open. I don't really have a big thing. I put tasks. So this goes back to Kim's question earlier about where I have related, related actions. This is why, because when I'm in a meeting and I'm being asked to do a bunch of stuff or have ideas for content, and so especially in this is a meeting with not a client but with my coach, and we have all of these ideas, and then I have to-dos at the bottom. I've also started using it for questions as well, using the hashtag questions, completely taken from Danny, as well. So I have that too. And then often what I do in terms of my content, it at the moment, because a lot of my content is kind of in the moment. I don't have anything anywhere near as fully featured as Danny because I don't need it. And I think that's the important thing, is like I have what I need and I don't like, whereas in Notion, I had to set everything up. I had to have a project dashboard and have this dashboard and a that dashboard. I don't need any of it. Like I have a content hub, I have my client systems dashboard and a business dashboard. I have them. Do I ever go in them? Not really. But I have them there if I need to find a piece of content. If I'm like, where is that? Well, like what am I doing right now? I need to really get some business stuff done. Business dashboard. These are all tasks related to my business projects. I have the dashboard at the top, and then I have projects that are specifically business related projects. And then I have notes and other to-dos. So it's where I capture ideas for the business dashboard. I just have fun. It's easy. And I don't have to think about it. But yeah, so inside of here, I've captured content ideas when I'm speaking to people. And then as you can see there, your system's holding you back, piece of content. And then I turn it into a project. And I have questions if I want questions. And then I have it linked back to clients. I haven't quite yet pulled, that's one thing that I'm going to be doing soon in my peoples, is having like related meetings. But I love my related projects. Now, I don't have a project with my coach because obviously we're not, projects are things that I'm working with people. But I love being able to pull in past projects that I've worked with people in here. I think you helped me with this. Because I'm just like, that is so cool. I just have to put their name and that is it. Like, that's it. It's there. It is so much more just in time than anything Notion could ever do.
That's a big claim.
You have to set everything up in Notion. I can just mess around and it will work.
But starting from scratch, you'd still need to set up the Dataview query.
Go and buy Danny's template.
or learn how to build it yourself, you know?
Go and buy Danny's template. Ain't nobody got time. Yeah. And if you know what you're doing, you could even find Danny's template. Not
True.
wanting to lose you money.
Yes. Okay, so Mage put something in here about DB Connect, Mark DB Connect. And that's the plugin that I use between Obsidian and Zotero, so you can see, like, go backwards and forwards. I have links inside of my Obsidian that take me to Zotero, and MarkDB Connect takes me from Zotero back to Obsidian, which is what I use when I'm doing my research. So as a sort of a closing out question, because I don't want to take longer than an hour, we've got about 10 minutes. So if you have any burning questions, like, send them in. As a closing question with regards to research, obviously I know you're a business person, but I know from the PKM podcast you have some, I guess, notes just in general on things. How are they stored, worked on, explored? Yeah, in general.
That's how. So I have my different types of notes. So I have the location of the note, which is all in the YAML, and then I have the type of note. So it might seem a bit weird that I have videos and notes. So if it's just a video on its own with no note on it, it's just a video like this one here.
Could you page preview it?
Huh?
Can you page preview it so I can sort of see what's...
Yeah.
Okay, right. I'm with you.
Yeah. And then I separate them up into the different types, and I get a location as well, which I kind of like, knowing where I bought things in. It was really helpful when I was importing, like switching between the direct integration and the other thing that I used before, Readwise. It's gone from my
I was going to say, are you deliberately not saying, or?
No, I just forgot. It's gone from my brain. And I really love these.
While we're in DB folder, do you want to show the queries that you've got? Or the filters, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, sure.
Because obviously you've got group filters in there, so people can sort of see what you're referencing when it comes to YAML. Yeah. It's not as complicated as mine.
No, I'm too lazy. So it's like type equals academic paper, type is a video, type is an article, type is a book. That is quite literally it.
Yeah, I've got like 3 or 4 filters in each group.
I got what I need, and I get in and get out. And it's super helpful just to be able to see things at a glance. I got my books, so you can see that that's a Readwise one that's come in, so I can just come in here and delete that page. I just love it. And what I really like is my new way of having, so I've got book summaries, key points, and highlights. One of the things that I struggled with Readwise, I think it was, and I could be incorrect, I could be getting this wrong, was I needed to have a separate page to be able to make notes. But now I can do my notes.
Because if you updated, it would scrap the old and bring in the new? Is that how it works?
I don't know whether it did, but I just didn't like it very much. And here, everything is just so... I like the reference blocks, like automatically creating little... I can't remember.
I thought you'd hate it.
I like it. I don't use it. It's a nice to have, but I don't really use it right now because I'm not really doing enough of it. So right now it's kind of nice to be able to easily reference stuff, but I've just got to remember the reference. I wish I could like create my own references, but whatever.
You can, but you'd have to right click and edit them.
Yeah, effort.
Well, you can rename them, but if you rename them and you've referenced them somewhere else, it breaks the link. So right click and edit ID would maintain the link.
Oh, cool. How? See?
Learning something new. Kim has a question. She's asking to see your folder structure.
It's a mess. It's very flat. I just haven't sorted through these. This is old stuff. Everything is basically completely flat. The only reason these aren't is because I haven't moved them out and I haven't finished organizing them again. So
But you
it's
don't
literally my
need to.
journal, my notes, and my templates, and that's it. And I don't need the folders.
That's one of the things that I learned sort of as I was using Obsidian is I did substitute like have the organization in my folders because that's how my brain was working. And then when I learned how to use, not necessarily how to use tags because I knew how tags worked, but you learned how to utilize tags inside of my searches, inside of my pages. I realized that it really doesn't matter where my note is stored in the files. It just don't need it. Like when I found DB folder, I was like, you know what? Forget folders. I don't need them. I'll just use this.
Yeah. So second part of Kim's question is everything just a file and you rely on links to now. I don't rely on links. Not really. I just use tags.
Do you want to show your tags?
Huh?
Do you want to show your tags?
Oh, can you not see it? But yeah.
Oh so yeah, I was looking at where my tags are.
Yeah. So I have my tags are pretty boring.
Well, yeah, but they do what they're meant to do. They explain what the thing is.
Yeah, that's literally it. It's literally like I have my notes and my source notes and my working notes. Do I use it very often? Not really anymore. I just have it automatic. It just does it for me. I don't like the name working. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to call it. It's not working, isn't quite right. It's a note that I'm doing stuff with. So yeah. Then I have my content. I have content, just the standard tag. I have blog, paid, and video. So my content is just when I'm capturing, and I either put it into a blog, it's a paid product, for example, or it's a video. That's when I've kind of turned it into something. Yeah.
All right.
And
yeah, we've got a comment from Mage, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this because I think block referencing is something that is a PKM buzzword, and I don't think many people really.
I agree that I find them a pain in the backside. They don't look very nice in. I've used them in a couple of pages, and I don't like how they look.
What do you use them for?
Because
this is something when I ask people that come from Roam and Logseek what they're using the blocks for, I personally don't see much of a use because what they're using it for is bringing it from one page to another, but I don't need to do that in Obsidian because it's in the page.
Yeah, so that's literally what's changed for me is I used to have much more smaller notes and now everything's a big note. So because I can just hover over it now and see that little sections, I don't really need to. I don't have embedded references at all. I sometimes use block references when it's a specific something that I want to link to, but even then I don't really use it.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a good point.
Can't automate block ref with Dataview, so no good for me. It's understandable. I mean, the only time I use block references is inside of what I would call my articles, when I'm trying to tell a story or I'm using information from another article. But that's a specific use case for me because I'm writing a lot of information in there rather than me using it for a planning out process. Like when I'm actually editing and planning out whatever it is that I'm writing or trying to understand a story, I don't use block references because I just have the panels open. I don't need to have it transcluded or embedded in the page. I just open another tab, open another panel, open another window.
I think I'm the same. If I need it, it's because I've created a summary, but I want to just like link down to the block down and be able to just hover over it when I get back into creating longer blogs or videos or like bigger pieces of content which uses language that I want to ensure I'm accurately discussing. I then perhaps would do the same thing and would have it like that, but right now no, it's just whatever. And I think I would use it in the same way you do, to be fair.
Yeah, so this is an example of one of my article pages. It's on note taking. You can find it on my Obsidian publish. But that is an example of a block reference. So up here in the introduction, there is an abundance of information. What does that mean? And I've sort of linked it to itself. Same with controlling notes. So most of these are references actually to the same page. But so you can see the abundance of information that is linked to this block down here, and you can see information abundance. But when this becomes useful is, for example, inside of, actually, I don't know where I've moved it. I think it's over here. Yeah, inside of the outline, when I go down to something like these sorts of sections, you see Tiago Forte's an alien. The building a second brain stuff, whenever I reference building a second brain anywhere else, I can just reference this block and it brings it here. Or I could reference the heading and it brings me to this section of the page. But again, that's summaries, they're articles, they're stories that I'm linking together, which is kind of like Thomas Frank tweeted about this recently, actually. It's kind of like a help documentation of notes rather than actual notes. Yeah, they're useful for linking things for other people so they can see where your mind has come from, if that makes sense, rather than it really being a note use.
Yes. Yeah. So. That is pretty much me too.
Nice, right? Well, that's an hour. Nice, nice time to finish. I think I'm going to close it out. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below, and we'll respond to you as best we can. John, is there anything else you want to say before we sign out?
No.
No, you've just been simple, basic, to the point.
There's not much else to say. Like, that's what I was saying. Like, it's a pretty... I just love how easy it is for me to be able to do what I want, which it doesn't require... Like, thinking about it, when we first started stuff like this stream, we were having to go into details of every little thing we were doing and why we were doing it and notiony stuff. And here it's just like, yeah, this is this because of this.
Yep. I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, this is really hard to make long content on, and Notion was so easy.
It was interesting because I was like, oh, I wonder what we're going to talk about. Okay, there's these, and that's it.
Yeah. It's just so simple.
It is that simple, which is what I like and what I need. So
yep.
I got what I wanted.
Maybe we'll do a catch up at some point in the new year when we've got some collaborative stuff working. So that's going to be exciting. But yeah, so thanks for joining, John. Thanks for everyone in the chat listening in. Yes, it will be replay. I'll leave it up on the channel for replay purposes, so you can come back to it whenever you want. Have a good evening, everyone.